Hello and welcome to You Wellbeing. I'm Ashley Meyer and I'm here today with one of our associate practitioners, Carolyn Leigh. Carolyn is a clinical nutritionist. Hi Carolyn.
Hi Ashley.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Carolyn has been a clinical nutritionist in the field of ME and chronic fatigue for quite some years, and her professional aspirations within the field have emanated from her own story struggling with ME. So I thought today we'd take the opportunity, Carolyn, if that's okay with you, just to get an idea of your own story, really, and how it all came together to get you to where you are today.
Sure.
So I know that you were unwell for quite some time. When did it all start for you?
Okay, 1994, which is quite a long time ago, I became very ill with the flu.
Right.
And it was a really bad bout of flu, and I wasn't recovering normally. I was off work much longer than I should have been.
Okay, and up until that time you had been quite healthy?
I thought I was,
right.
But I'd had a huge amount of stress in my life over a very, very long period.
Okay.
And I hadn't really looked after myself. So I could have been healthier.
Right. Okay. And so you had this bad bout of flu.
Yeah.
And what happened from there?
I didn't make a full recovery because I started to get flu-like symptoms, only lasting for 2 or 3 days, about every other month.
Okay.
And this lasted for about 6 months until it finally blew up one night and in the next day into full ME, basically.
Okay. Which at the time you didn't really know.
No.
Was ME.
No, I didn't know.
Okay, so all that you knew that there was a lot that was going on in your life.
Yes.
Over an extended period of time, and then you sort of started presenting with these flu-like symptoms on and off throughout sort of a couple of months.
In between, my energy went back to normal for me, so I thought I was okay.
Okay.
So I just carried on.
Okay.
But then one morning I woke up and I really thought, okay, I'm really ill here. What's wrong with me?
Okay.
But the worst thing was that it didn't go away. I could hardly get out of bed. I felt worse than I've ever felt in my life.
Okay.
And I just thought, something's seriously wrong here.
Okay, so what did you do?
Well, at the beginning, I just stayed in bed for the first few days, as you do, thinking, you're going to get better.
Yeah.
But then it carried on week after week. So within a sort of 3-week, 4-week period, I thought, this is ridiculous, call the doctor out. And from that point onwards, it was back and forth to the doctors trying to find out what was wrong with me.
Okay. And that went on for how long?
It went on for August till January, so it was quite a long time.
A good sort of 6 months.
6 months.
Okay,
yes.
So kind of going back and forwards to the doctor and not getting any close to any idea of what was actually going on.
Nothing. They didn't give me anything. They just said, go away and eat fruit. And at the time, I'm thinking, this is ridiculous.
Okay. And how were you feeling at the time?
I was getting more stressed as well. And they were more or less insinuating it was all in my mind at the time.
Okay, so because you were sort of feeling this way and because you weren't getting the answers, actually that turned out to be a very stressful experience for you. Okay, so after that period of not getting answers, what happened from there? Well,
I managed to finally convince one of the doctors to send me to a specialist because I said, this isn't right. I think I might have this thing called ME. And obviously I'd heard about it by then.
Yeah.
He said, okay, maybe you have, maybe you haven't, I don't know. I'll send you to the only specialist I know in my area who could possibly deal with me. And he was an oncologist.
Okay.
I don't know why I was sent to an oncologist, but that's all they had. And he discovered that I'd actually got a heart problem. And that I'd actually got something called myocarditis, which is a viral infection that actually attacks the heart. So I thought at the time, okay, that answers everything. I've had this terrible viral infection and now I've got a heart condition, but it wasn't quite the end of the story.
Okay. So what did they advise you at that point?
Well, at the time they put me in hospital, they put me on a heavy drug regime, and for 3 months I was more or less completely debilitated. Could hardly walk across the room. And I thought,
actually any efforts to rectify the situation were seemingly having the opposite effect.
It was made me worse.
It made you worse.
And then finally I thought, this is ridiculous, I've got to go back to see them, I can't take, this kind of drug regime. So I told them, they lowered the dose, but I still wasn't getting any better, and I was still aching all over with flu-like symptoms.
Okay.
And still feeling like my whole brain, my head, everything about me had just completely was foggy and horrible. Sore throats all the time.
Okay. So at what point then did you decide that you had to start looking further afield for answers?
I suppose when I began to realise that the symptoms I'd got were not actually totally related to the heart problem.
Mm-hmm.
The heart problem should have caused out of breath, being out of breath. It should have caused some energy problems, but it had nothing to do with aching all over, brain fog, sore throats, swollen glands, nothing to do with that. So I knew something else was going on, and all the time ME was in my brain.
Okay. So how did you approach it then?
Again, went back to the doctor and said, this isn't working, maybe I've got ME. This is a year later.
Right.
And he said, okay, there's a clinic locally you can go and see on the NHS with a homeopath, let's try that. So I thought, great, I'm getting some help here. And I started seeing this homeopathic doctor once a month, and he, I suppose at the time, was just he was in his infancy and perhaps learning about ME, so I don't know, but after about 3 or 4 months he just turned round to me and he said, you've got fibromyalgia, I can't help you anymore. So at which point I burst into tears.
Of course. And
went out completely stressed, upset, and feeling totally distressed.
Okay. So you came to sort of the end of the path.
Yes, for that.
In that area.
Yeah.
So what did you do then?
I thought, well, okay, I'm not going to get help on the NHS. My doctor did try to give me some magnesium injections. They didn't help at all. So he was trying to be helpful, but there was nothing there left on the NHS to offer me. So I thought, okay, I'll try to go privately. I didn't know who to go to, so I was just having to go on anybody that I could find.
Mm-hmm.
Hadn't got a clue who to turn to. And a lot of people don't, because unfortunately you don't get that guidance from your GP.
No. What sort of treatment types were you looking at?
I didn't quite know what to look for at the time, so again I probably went for another homeopath. When that didn't work, I went for people who said, we treat chronic fatigue, just, I've got to go and see them, know. And I didn't bother to look at the qualifications, I didn't look at their background, naturopath type people.
Yeah.
And a lot of it at the time was basically not working.
Okay.
So I had to keep going, I had to keep searching.
Okay. And how did you go about that?
Well, I started getting interested in partly what I was finding, and I did recognise that there were some nutritional sort of supplements and things that possibly somewhere could help me, because they'd kind of tried to sell me things on the way.
Yeah.
But it hadn't been the right things, so I thought there's got to be more to this than just chucking stuff at you.
Okay.
So I started doing a lot of research on the internet. I actually researched my own heart condition and looked at all these different things that could, natural nutrition that could actually help my heart condition. And that was kind of like the first thing, because it wasn't just diet, it was also nutritional supplements, nutritional medicine that actually could help my heart condition. So I thought, this is interesting, how much further can I go?
Right.
At the time my whole body was like a complete wreck, so I started doing more research, started buying books, ended up with over 100 books, and realising that in America a lot of research was being done into ME, chronic fatigue, and that maybe I should be trying to find someone who could offer me that kind of advice here, but I didn't think I could find it, to be honest with you.
Okay. And
not at the time.
Did you?
I found a practitioner in my own area who worked slightly in that field, and some of the stuff was coming from America, and I got quite excited about this. But I began to realise quite quickly, he's retired now, so I'm not saying names or anything, that I actually was learning more, and I knew more than he did on the subject, so I thought, this is silly. I wonder if I should study this myself, because everyone was saying to me, you've got so much knowledge, you're so passionate about this, why don't you become a nutritionist? And I thought, no, I'm so ill, I can't do anything, because you're in victim mode, so you don't think you can actually take the reins and take control.
But you did.
I did, but I didn't realise I was doing it.
Yeah.
So I actually found a course, an accredited course that offered a Bachelor of Science eventually, and that I could study from home, and which allowed me to study in my own time, because I wasn't well, so I couldn't obviously study at the pace of other students.
Right. So you embarked on this Bachelor of Science.
Yes.
And that gave you answers for yourself.
It was like turning on a light bulb.
Okay.
I'm studying anatomy and physiology, studying nutrition, studying and finding that this incredible link between diet, nutrition, and chronic health problems. It was like a light bulb just being switched on.
Okay.
And the more I learned that, the more I realised the potential of what was going on out there and what more could be learned.
Okay. So as you were learning, as you were applying your learnings to yourself and your own well-being,
yes,
was it at that point that you started to feel yourself moving forward?
I didn't think I was.
Right.
Not in my own mind.
Okay.
I still felt I was ill, but I struggled and struggled and struggled on. I went through some more traumatic experiences during that beginning of the course, and I actually had to take a year off because of what was going on in my life. But then I discovered meditation, quite by chance, and I did a home course in meditation, and I think that possibly was the turning point for me, although again, subconsciously I didn't quite realise the changes that were happening in me.
So what changes do you think were happening subtly that you didn't acknowledge at the time?
I was taking power. I was taking back control.
Okay.
And I was coming out of that, I'm a victim, the world's done these terrible things to me, I'm ill, I deserve better.
Okay, and clearly sort of the meditation was probably also having a calming effect on your system.
Incredibly calming. It was a wonderful experience to be able to learn how to meditate.
Okay.
I didn't know if there was any other psychological help out there, but I knew that I knew I was stable in my own mind. I always had been. I'd had a very happy childhood, and I always felt that had given me a fantastic start to life. But I also knew that something was holding me back. So all the stresses and everything, I took on board as like a big load, and I couldn't get them off my shoulders.
Okay. So that actually, what you're saying is that all the nutritional practices that you were starting to apply, together with the meditation that was calming your system a little and giving you a sense of more control in your life, that started to create the shift that then moved you in the right direction.
In hindsight, yes. At the time, I didn't know.
Right, you weren't acknowledging it.
I couldn't acknowledge it because I still thought I was ill. But amazingly, I got through my degree, and I started my own practice, and I just suddenly realised I was getting my life back. And you don't even know you're doing it. It just happens gradually.
So you were shifting all the time. Because clearly if you managed to finish your degree and you managed to start your own practice, then you were clearly in a very different place to what you were when you were bedbound.
I was walking a different road, and I hadn't even recognised I was doing it. And it didn't really occur to me until I started to become actually quite successful in my job, and I'm walking around busy, and seeing people who are chronically ill, remembering how I was.
Right.
So it's complete change.
And so that then sort of signified a sort of a real recovery process for you.
Yes.
And how long ago are we talking about?
About 5 years ago, before I actually got to the point where I felt I could take control. To be fair, I did see a professional nutritionist, a clinical nutritionist in London, and that was also, he guided me to the right path. He became my mentor as well, and he's now a colleague, and that actually helped give me the actual last piece of the puzzle to get myself physically in the right place.
Yes.
But again, at that time, I still didn't think I was recovering.
Yes.
So in my mind, I kind of couldn't put it at one point, but it did happen.
Okay. So at the time you really started your whole struggle with this, there was just very little out there. There was no guidance.
There was nothing.
There was no clear information.
And to be honest with you, when you see, I'm sure you'll agree with this, when you see patients today, there is no guidance from conventional medicine.
No.
And that, for me, is a complete sadness.
Okay, so what you're saying really is that the guidance is key, because if you have that guidance,
yes,
then you have
you'd make the correct choices.
You'll make the correct choices, and also alleviate sort of a lot of stress and pressure from you.
Yes.
And it gives you a sense of support.
Absolutely, and so many people come to me, as I'm sure they do to you, and say, "I wish I'd found you first.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I'd been told to come and see you."
Mm-hmm.
And they've gone round round the circles and round the whole bushes.
Absolutely.
The way I did.
Okay, so clearly, sort of what for you was a very lengthy story.
Yes,
could have been cut significantly.
Absolutely.
By knowing how to approach things.
Which is why integrating, I believe the two together now, it is so successful.
So nutrition and the psychological approaches.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Carolyn, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for joining us. And if you'd like further information, you can see our website, www.uwellbeing.com. Thank you very much. Thank you, Carolyn.
You're welcome.